Started. So welcome to our Lunch and Learn today. My name is Catherine Honeycutt, and I'm the Communications Specialist for Better Business Bureau serving Eastern North Carolina. And I'm so excited you've taken the time out of your day to join us. It is now my privilege and honor to introduce our guest speaker, Ashley-Nicole Russell of A&R Law. She's going to talk all about time management and leadership to help you be successful. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to you to kind of kick us off.
Hey everyone, I'm Ashley-Nicole Russell and I have an hour with you today. I'm so excited to be spending your lunch with you. And this will be a little bit interactive. You are free to ask me questions in the chat box. Let me bring that up right now. I have that. And so I'm going to talk fluidly throughout this entire presentation. I do not have a PowerPoint. I do like to monologue. And so I'm going to go through a lot of very important pieces of the post-2020 leadership world and how it is to run a small business. Post-pandemic, we're still in the middle of it, but we've made it through a lot of the heavy parts. And so how do you pick up the pieces from there and move forward if your business was either successful or struggling during the pandemic? And so I am going to monologue. I would ask if you'd have any questions, feel free to add that to the chat throughout this. I will interweave answers and stop and be able to kind of work that in as I'm talking to you. And I will have takeaway points for you. So if you want to have a pen and paper, it's going to be very helpful for you to be able to write down a lot of what I'm telling you, just because I think some of these things are things that are pretty obvious, but it's hard to think about it when you're in the day-to-day of running a business. And so running a business is very difficult. It takes a lot, especially a small business. You wear many different hats as a small business owner. There are HR elements to it, accounting elements, and those elements can kind of get behind the scenes. You're really more in the process of perfecting what you're doing and providing that service or providing that good or product. And then those other things can start to fall behind. But that's really where, whenever you're struggling, or if there is something where the world has changed and you feel like your own practice has changed or your own business has changed and you want to get it back to a place where you felt like it was incredibly successful, then it's going to be important for you to be able to kind of analyze those parts. And so I'm going to be talking a lot about that and giving you good takeaway points. So for those of you who are joining us, if you have any questions throughout this, please just add those to the chat and we will be able to answer and adjust as we go along. I'm going to speak for about 40 minutes and then I'll have about 15 minutes on the end to be able to answer questions if you want to ask them then. I will also go through some takeaway points at that point as well. So I'm excited for all of you to be joining me, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as a small business owner, so just a little bit of background. I'm not going to go into a lot about myself, but I do own quite a few law firms and run them. I also have different media aspects of my businesses that I run. I've had retail businesses in the past, restaurant businesses in the past, service and product good services. And so I have a breadth of experience, and I also do a lot of CEO coaching. And I do that across the United States of America. I have clients in Florida, California, New York. And so it's important for me to be able to help share with you guys a lot of the things that, again, this is stuff that you just don't normally think about. And I think it's going to be really helpful for you to be able to have that information in this post 2020 world. We are in 2021. The pandemic is still somewhat here, but there are so many things that are moving in a positive direction. So I'm going to give you a lot of that positive spice to be able to help you in this second half of the 2021 year. So time is your most valuable asset. As a small business owner, time is exactly what you need to be aware of. Your balance of your life is going to lead to success for you in so many ways, or the lack of success. And we want to avoid the latter. So being very aware of time and where your time is going to be very important. So what I want you to know is that if you kind of think about yourself and your business from a 30,000 foot view or a chess game perspective, and you do that check in with yourself monthly or quarterly, you're going to be a lot more successful than if you do not do those check ins. So, if you think about playing chess, whenever you sit at a chessboard, the board is below you, you sit upright and you look down on the chessboard. You see all of your players and all of your opponent's players. Now, you may not have a direct opponent in what you do as a business, but your opponent really is the market and the public in general. And so that can be used against you or for you. And it's really about your mindset. And the way that you perfect that mindset is to be able to center in on what a chess game perspective looks like. That chess game perspective is, like I said, top down view, and that we consider a 20,000-foot view. So obviously, if you're sitting at a chessboard, you're not 20,000 feet above your chessboard, but it's the same concept. You want to have those check-ins. And the way that you do that is to really be able to analyze what your business is doing either monthly, quarterly, or yearly. The more often that you analyze your business and you do a check in with yourself and your time and your boundaries, the more successful you're going to be. So, if you do that meeting monthly, you would do that only if you are in a place where you need help. So, if your business is functioning very well, you feel like you're in an area where your profit is very high, then you don't necessarily need a monthly check in. I think a quarterly check in is pretty necessary, though. At the absolute minimum, you have to have a yearly check in. That's called taxes. So, in a lot of ways, you're doing that yearly check in anyway. If you have an accountant and the accountant is handling all of that for you, you want to have a conversation with your accountant so that you can be aware and in the know. So, even if you have an accountant, you're going to want to have that one on one conversation with them. But again, you're still going to want to have a conversation with yourself. If you're the leader of the business or you're in a management position within your business, you still have an accountability standard and you need to be able to have that check in. So, scheduling that out in your calendar is going to be incredibly important. Otherwise, you will never do it. The reality is that owning a small business is incredibly difficult. It is a lot on your shoulders. And so, in order to be able to appropriately manage your time, you need to have a very good calendaring system. And so, that's the first thing that I want you to know. So, time is your most valuable asset. Having either quarterly, monthly, or yearly check ins is going to be very important. You're going to need to analyze that based on where you're at in your business, how many years you've been in business, and whether or not your business is successful right now, or if it's been more successful in the past, to think about that as well. So, when you think about time and you have your top down perspective, one of the things that I want you to do is always remember what is the mission statement of your business or of your place that you are, your management position. If you have a mission statement that is very clear, that describes the reason that you're doing this and what it is that you're trying to provide, then you can always center back on that later if you feel like you're getting lost or things are not going well, or if there's, a countrywide pandemic and you feel like you need to kind of readjust after that. And so that mission statement is something that changes and evolves over time as your business evolves. The more successful that you get or the longer that you've been in practice, you are going to discover that that statement is going to evolve, and it needs to evolve to fit you. But you don't want to lose the most important parts, because the reason that you started the business is a passion of yours in some way, and that's going to be important to maintain. If you lose the passion, you lose the drive, and then it's very difficult to manage your time. And so having a very good concept of what your mission statement is allows you to be able to have the chess game perspective on the right target. Because if you don't know what your mission statement is, what are you having a 20,000-foot view of? You don't want to have a 20,000-foot view of the entire world. That's not going to help you. You need to have a more specified thing that you're analyzing. So it's important to understand that every business has an efficiency rating. The efficiency rating that you're going to give yourself, just thinking about it right now, is going to be skewed. Whatever you think about your own business and your own efficiency rating is going to be biased, and it's probably not true. So you need to deep dive to truly understand what your efficiency rating is. That efficiency rating is how you manage your time appropriately. If you are managing your time appropriately, your efficiency rating is high because you are being efficient. If you are not managing your time appropriately, your efficiency rating is low because you are not being efficient. Lack of efficiency is what leads to loss of either, your profit or loss of your own balance in life or loss of your own time. So all of those things negatively affect your business, either loss of time, loss of balance, or loss of profit. And so we want to make sure that we are centered on those and able to analyze them. The way to analyze your efficiency rating is to see how well your assembly line works. So obviously, you do not have to have a good to be able to have an assembly line. Service also has an assembly line. So if you have a service that you are offering, there's an assembly line that is created there. And I want to give you some examples of that. So I am an attorney and I'm a divorce attorney. I also do business law as well. But in order to help someone from point A to point B, we have to have specific ways that we do that. So in my business, I have created an assembly line for that. There is an initial consult. There is a document that's sent to them after that that engages with my firm. After that, they have a documents conference. So that is a conference that goes over the documents they need to get to me so that I can then analyze their case. There's an onboarding call that's immediately scheduled. Then we have the finalization of the product that we're going to produce to them, whatever document it is, whether for filing or for them to sign. There's going to be a review call of that document. There's So, whenever you hire someone, you may not automatically assume all those things would go into having an attorney draft a document for you, and they don't have to. And over time, over a decade of experience, that is exactly what I've created, because that's how the clients stay 100% on board with what I'm talking about. They are in the know. They don't have any questions. That means they don't feel the need to call the office a lot to be able to have those questions answered. Means that my staff time is streamlined. It means that my own calendar is 100% streamlined. Every morning when I wake up, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing, nothing more, nothing less. That is very important for my own balance and mentality. And the way that I'm able to achieve that is when a client starts, they're automatically scheduled out for all of the things that I just described. Now, are those timelines going to move and evolve and be malleable? Absolutely. Nothing can be known for sure, but it gives certain places where we have check-ins and we know how to make sure that we're moving that person along an efficiency standard. It's really important to do that. And so I didn't come to that understanding early on in my practice. In fact, it's probably been over the last 5 years that we've instituted that. And it's really been over the last 3 years that we've perfected it. And that has been through just time and experience. And it works for all different types of businesses. So, accounting practices, if you have an actual good that you're delivering, it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be a beginning, there's going to be a next step after that, there's a middle, there's another step after that, and there's an end. So, you would really need to know that there's at least 5 steps no matter what you're doing. And so, that's your onboarding, the middle, then there's the actual center of where your representation is or the good that you're providing lays. There's going to be a step after that, then the exit. And so that's very important to think about. When you think about your own calendar, you have multiple ways that you can use a calendaring system. You're either going to be using your iPhone or you're going to have some sort of Outlook situation. You have maybe a cloud based calendar system. If you have 4 or 5 or 3 or 2 calendars working within your business, that's a problem. You need to have one calendar. So let's talk about what calendar is going to most fit your needs. If your iPhone calendar is the easiest for you to access because it's right there in your hand, how can your iPhone talk to your Outlook so that it's in one place? It's easy to do that, but it's going to take time. That time, though, that you put in to get this organization done on the outset is going to affect your efficiency rating daily thereafter, which means that you're over time going to get that time back tenfold. And so it's important to know that technology is there to assist you, though it can be incredibly scary. It is very navigable if you are committed to navigating it. And so that top down view is the first place to start, I think, is your calendar. So, most people wake up in the morning with the scaries. The thinking of what all is it that I have to do today? What have I missed? What am I not thinking about that I have to do? Some people call it the Sunday scaries that you get when thinking about your week ahead. Those scaries are basically eliminated if you know exactly what's on your calendar and all of your support staff is funneling the exact same assembly line through your calendar. So when I wake up every morning, all I do is look at my calendar to know exactly what I'm going to be doing that day. Nothing's going to be added. And so that's something that people have a hard time understanding. With your business, it may be that you have a fly by night type of business and your response time to your customers is less than 24 hours. But I will tell you, that's like 3% of businesses. Most businesses have plenty of time to be able to accommodate either your client or the good, or if you have someone that you do business with, that's a part of your business that you need to communicate with, like a manufacturer that needs to get you a product. There's a time frame that allows for that. Now, is it 3 months? No. Is it a month? No. Is it a week? No. But you're going to at least have 48 hours, which means that your time and your calendar can be completely managed. If you have support staff, it is very important that you have full conversations with your staff about exactly what your calendar directives are. In order to have those conversations, you need to know what your calendar needs to do for you. In order to know what your calendar needs to do for you, you need to know what you need. In order to know what you need to have an understanding of your mission statement and your business. So it all boils back down to the 20,000-foot view, if that makes sense. So for the calendar, what I want to tell you is that you can adjust your mind to know that you can accept exactly what's on your calendar and nothing more and nothing less. And so anything that happens that day, so let's say today is May 19th. For me, a client calls in, they have an emergency situation, they need to talk to me immediately. That looks like they're going in at whatever 15 to 10-minute time slot I have in the morning. It does not mean that they are going on my calendar today. The reason they're not going on my calendar today is a few things. One, I don't have time because I have other clients that I'm fully committed to for the day. And I need to make sure that I'm able to be here with you for this lunch seminar to give you the information that I've already committed to do. And I need to make sure that all of the clients that I'm going to be seeing for the rest of the afternoon have the time that they've been promised, because my word as a small business owner is very important. And so that person can understand that they're going to be immediately addressed within 24 hours. If they're calling me today, that means tomorrow morning for 15 or 10 minutes is still within 24 hours. You can give yourself that grace. If you do that, you're going to create a lot of balance for yourself. That balance means that you're a better business owner, and it means that you're better at customer service. Customer service is the one thing that you can always control, no matter what pandemic is happening in this world. You can control how you treat your clients. You can control that by having balance in your life, if that makes sense. So I just want to kind of really pause there. And I do have a question here. I would say that, so for myself, I have a Clio cloud-based system. I have that system talk to my calendar. So that way, all of my staff sees my calendar and I see my calendar. One thing that's very important, if you have a medical appointment, or if you have a therapy appointment, or if you have a yoga session, or if you have a workout that you need, all of that is very much so included in your balance. And you may think, well, I need that to be on my separate personal calendar and not on my work calendar. That is an incorrect thought process. Do not let yourself think that way. That is not right. You have to know what your whole day looks like. So if you have a personal calendar that's over here and your work calendar over here, nobody knows where there's areas where there's conflict. So then if there's conflict, now you're like, oh my God, I got to get out of the gym and I got to go to do this and da, 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 and then you're like this. And then the rest of the day is going to start to go downhill. Then that's going to transfer to your next day. And then you're waiting for the weekend to reset yourself. Then you've got the Sunday scaries. You never get out of it. It's not a cycle you want to get into. So the best way to do that is put out of office appointment. You can know for yourself what that means. You can put a T if it's therapy, a W if it's working out. If you want to have your own understanding so that your staff doesn't know, exactly how much time you're spending at the gym, totally understandable, but you just need to have that in the calendar so everybody knows when you're available and when you're not available. As soon as you leave a doctor's office, it needs to immediately go into your calendar. As soon as you leave your therapy session or the gym, or you get your new Pilates schedule, it needs to immediately go in the calendar. If you do those things for yourself, there are no more scaries. The lack of scaries is what creates an ability for you to have composed understanding of your business. Composed understanding of your business is really important because that's the way that you're able to transmit to the clients, to the manufacturers, to whoever it is that you're dealing with, what it is that you're able to provide to them in a calm and composed manner. That confidence is what will keep people coming back to you. Please know that confidence in yourself and in your business is the number one thing that's going to give you retention. Retention is how you have stabilized income. Even if you have a new set of clients every month or a new set of orders every month, retention is there because of your customer service standard and your own level of confidence and calmness about your business. We have another question. Yes, you should leave time in your calendar for you to be able to adjust. So let's say you have children. Children are something that do not fall necessarily within a 24-hour time frame, right? Like if your child is sick at school, you can't be like, I'm so sorry, I will get to that tomorrow morning when I have 15 minutes. That's not how that works. So there are going to be times where you're going to need to adjust for that. If you have a 15 or 20-minute time slot within every day that you have an adjustment, then if you start to bleed over, or let's say you got on one call and it went 5 minutes too long, and then that next call went 5 minutes too long, then you have an equalization period. So if you put that 20-30 minutes in around middle of the day, 1 o'clock, then you'll have a place where some of that stuff that's built up will level back out again. You'll start anew, being back on top of your calendar. Now, obviously, if you're sick or things need to be changed or moved, they're going to be moving off of your calendar. It's going to be cleared and have to go to the next day. That's okay. It's okay for that to happen. It doesn't have to be, exactly perfect every single day, but you can wake up knowing with that calm confidence that barring a catastrophe, your schedule's set and that you're going to have time management. So that is the number one piece of your efficiency standard and your efficiency rating. That rating you'll need to kind of give to yourself. Why don't you go ahead and look at your business this week, kind of give yourself right now, as you're thinking about your business, you can be like, yeah, I think I'm operating at a 45%. Then you can really boil down and analyze it and see how close you were to it. You're probably biased on whatever you're thinking right now. So the first place that you analyze your efficiency setting is going to be your calendar. Let's move on. Your assembly line is going to be very evident in your P&L. So P&L, that's something that a lot of small business owners, I have come to find out through all of my CEO coaching, do not look at. Even if you have an accountant who composes one for you monthly, and let's give the accountants grace, they are not going to have all of your P&Ls completely finished on the 3rd of the month when it ends on the 31st. Obviously, it's going to be like maybe the 15th or the end of the next month that you're going to get the P&L for, like, let's say April. I'm not going to get the P&L for April from my accountant until the end of May. And so that's totally fine. I don't need to have that unless something's happening and I need her to show me something right now. But P and L stands for profit and loss. So your P&L statement is going to have along the left margin categories of what you spend money on. And then it's going to have the amount of income that you brought in. And at the end of the day, we'll be able to show you the amount of net profit that you have. A lot of small business owners base their success on their gross income. That's inappropriate. You need to base your success on your net income. Now, your net income is in a lot of ways controlled by you. You can control your expenses. If you have a lot of extra personal expenses, or you run a lot of things through your business that are personal, then obviously those things are going to affect your net profit. You can manage that, in the back of your mind, how much of it is actually your cell phone, gas, meals and entertainment, etc. Those things are maneuverable. But to talk about your efficiency rating, you need to have your P&Ls. And the reason that you need to have P&Ls, even if you're doing them for yourself, if you have QuickBooks, you're going to be able to generate those P&Ls yourself. If you have an accountant, they're going to generate them for you. If you've never done a P&L in your life, then you can look back at all of your bank statements and start to create categories for yourself. It's very easy to Google a P&L statement so that you can kind of see what one looks like. Then if you do not have any P&Ls or QuickBooks right now, you would need to pull your credit card statements for the last 12 months. And then you would need to start placing all of those expenses into specifically what category they fall under. Now, you may not be perfect at this, but this is a very essential exercise to being able to even understand your efficiency rating, which is going to be essential to long-term success. Episodes of success are 100% doable without the things that I'm telling you. Long-term success is not available to you if you do not do the things that I'm talking to you about. So that's what I want for you. I want for you to have a business that can sustain whatever pandemic comes across in this country. And in order for you to do that, you have to know exactly what it is that you're doing. And so P&Ls, the reason that they are so important is because if you get into a place where you're like, where is the money? What has happened? Then you can analyze this month versus last month versus the quarter before that versus the year before that. And you can start to see trends in your business. When you start to analyze trends in your business, that plays directly into your efficiency rating. If your trend in your business is seasonal, then your efficiency rating is not going to be bad in the months that you're not seasonally using your business. It's just going to be an off season. There's a big difference between a lack of efficiency or a bad efficiency rating and an off season for a seasonal business. So for example, heating and air. Heating and air has seasons. Those seasons are in the deep cold and the deep heat. Other than that, there's a lot of extra services that HVAC companies offer, but it's not going to be as much income as in the deep cold and the deep heat. And so that means that a small business owner for an HVAC system, whenever it's in the middle of March and no one's even using their HVAC because it's basically off due to the fact that the windows are up. If they were to not understand their P&Ls or their seasonal business at all, they may think, oh my God, how am I going to be able to pay my bills in April and May? And that would be an inappropriate thought process because come June, July, and August, they're going to have a ton of money to be able to pay for all of the expenses that they maybe had to exhibit in April and May to prepare for the upcoming June, July, and August heavy season. Does that make sense? So we want to make sure that you can understand the trends of your business. The best way to understand the trend of your business is to look at a overall view of your P&L statements. The P&L statements, so that's the past. So you want to be able to look to the past, then you want to be able to look at the present. So the present with your P&L statement is going to be able to show you where the fat is. Where can you trim the fat? Some of the places that people can easily trim fat are going to be on paper products. You know, how much paper are you using? And when I say paper, I mean all types of paper. I mean paper for your copier, paper for toilet paper, paper for paper towels, any type of paper. Paper costs a lot of money. Trees cost money. It's an expensive piece of where we're at. And right now, with after the pandemic, it costs even more money than it used to. And so how can you manage that? Can you print double-sided? Can you print everything double-sided? Can you scan everything instead of printing? Can you move to a cloud system so that you don't have paper files anymore? All of those things are going to start to manage how much you're spending. And how much you're spending goes back to what is your net profit. Another place that a lot of people don't think about is going to be your phone system. Do you have a phone system? Do you have it through Spectrum or do you have it through an internet phone-based business? There are ways that you can manage your expenses now by looking for competitive offers. So do you have, what is your internet? How do you get internet? Can you look to getting internet in a different way? There are multiple ways that people are provided internet now. So I think that it's incredibly important for you to be able to know, am I getting the best quality service from the providers that provide to my business so that I can then make sure that what I'm doing for my net profit makes the most amount of sense. some of those things are different, right? So if you go from using landlines where Spectrum is able to come out and service you, and then you transfer your entire system over to an internet phone system, that's going to be a big difference. You want to think about service. How is that company able to service you? If your phone goes down, are you able to get back up? I will tell you that a lot of landlines take a lot longer to get back up than an internet phone. Additionally, internet phone services are pretty standardized, and so you get a specific amount per phone. Do you need extra phones in your office so that people can handle the phones to be able to talk? Like, if you have a call coming in and you only have two phones, are the calls rolling over? Is anyone ever getting a busy signal? A busy signal is deadly for a business. You cannot have a busy signal. They need to go somewhere. You need to have an answering system. Those can also be very easy. There are Google numbers. If you want to have a Google number set up to where you don't have your own phone line, you're only paying for your cell phone, but you have a Google number that's able to kind of filter your calls for you, that's another way that you're able to manage expenses. So whenever you have a P&L, you can go line by line. Office supplies, what does that entail? What do I spend money for office supplies? That's generally going to be paper, pens, paper clips. And then it's also going to include your services there, phones, internet, that type of thing. And you can think about each one. If you're in a place where your business is in a pickle right now, this is the time that you need to be analyzing your P&L. Your P&L is going to give you a lot of insight. You should analyze it on last year at this month, and then you should analyze it in different seasons so that you can see, what am I spending money on in these months versus what am I spending it on these months. If you are traveling a lot for your business, is there a way that you can hire out someone being able to address those further out places and still make money off of them? Are there ways that you can collaborate with other people? So if you're looking at your travel and gas expenses, how can you minimize or manage those? Is there a capability for you to be able to hire an independent contractor or find someone who can go out and do or get information for you that you don't have to go and get yourself? The age of today, there are so many apps. There are apps for basically every type of occupation for someone to be able to be hired for an hour to go do something in a different location. So, for instance, you're a real estate agent and you need to have pictures of a property done, and that property is 2 hours away. There's an app with it, you can hire a photographer and they're going to go and take gorgeous pictures for you without you ever having to show up. And that's going to be a lot more of a managed time versus you having to spend your own time, your own gas, go out there, bring your own photographer. How much are they going to charge you? There are so many ways for you to manage that. So when you're looking at your P&L, look at your travel expenses and look at what it is that you're spending money on and brainstorm, are there ways for me to be able to adjust this? A good way for you to brainstorm, are there ways for me to be able to adjust this, is to literally type in Google, is there a way for me to fill in the blank? And it is amazing what Google will bring up to you. And if it doesn't bring up the exact answer, scroll down. You may be able to find a new way to characterize your question so that it will bring you the correct answer. But having that P&L analyzation is going to be very important to be able to understand what your efficiency rating is. Rent. I want to talk to you about rent. In this day and age, rent is going to be a huge factor. Things are adjusting rapidly right now. There's a lot of relief for rent based on the pandemic. Additionally, there are a lot of properties that would love to be filled with tenants who are going to pay. You may need to change. Do you have a lease? Is your lease coming up? Do you want to negotiate your lease? You may not have to move at all. You may be able to call your landlord and say, I can't pay this. I need to be able to pay this. This is what I can pay you. In order to not have to get you out of your lease, move someone else in, fix up the space that you're in, they're probably going to be very willing to work for you. I want you to know, as a small business owner, anytime anyone tells you no and it's directly related to your business, do not take that as the answer. You should not take that as the answer unless you've been told no 3 or 4 times. You need to reword your question. You need to rethink about what it is that you truly need and then go back to the source. I will tell you that just asking the question a second time has a 30% increased chance of changing the answer from a no to a maybe. People just don't want to deal with things right now. So if you call up, your internet provider and you're like, can I have this type of service? The person on the other end of the phone may be busy or having some sort of personal tantrum and be like, no, we cannot do that. Call back again and ask someone else and see what they say. They may say the total opposite. I'll tell you right now that at the clerk's office alone, it depends on what clerk I talk to as to whether or not they're going to be able to accomplish something for me. And it absolutely depends on the mood of the day as to whether or not that clerk's going to be amenable or not. So just know that the word no is not something you want to accept frequently as a business owner. You want to be able to either in your own mind readjust that, or go back to the source and ask again, or go to a different source. Another thing that you're going to be able to think through is staff time. How much staff time do you really need? How efficient is your staff actually being? How much do you actually know about what your staff is doing when you're not around? That is something that's very important. There should be no Facebook or Instagram open on staff computers while they're working for you. That is not what they get paid to do. They get paid to advance your business. Now, thinking about staff and whether or not you need staff is also important. Delegation of duties is a very important piece of owning a business. You need to be able to delegate your own time, and you need to be able to have your staff time delegated. That means that your staff time needs to be calendared as well. Each person that works for you needs to know exactly what their own day looks like just as much as yours, so that they don't have scaries and you're not losing problems, or you're not losing time and accountability with them. So if your staff is coming in and they have no idea what they're doing and they're not scheduled out and they don't have their personal leave in the calendar, or when they're going to go to Pilates in the calendar, then they don't know what their day looks like either. And then that's going to fall back on you. That does not fall back on you. That arrow does not go backwards. That arrow needs to stay where it is. If you've delegated something to your staff, then your staff needs to do it. If it comes back to you, then you're just, allocating it, which takes time, then taking it back on, which takes time, then figuring it out, which takes time. You've threefold allocated time to something that you delegated. That makes no sense. If that happens more than 3 times, you need to have a conversation with your staff member. So this is really, analyzation of your day to day. It takes a lot whenever you're already dealing with client after client after client, or conflict after conflict, or problem with production or whatever, to then stop and think about this. But it is more important to think about this and get this under control than it is to be a firefighter. If you're constantly just fighting one fire, fighting another fire, fighting another fire, fighting the next fire, then you're not going to be able to use your time in an appropriate way. And you're not going to be confident about your business. Your confidence is not going to be felt and heard by the clients or people that you're servicing. And you're not going to be able to be a productive person, and you're not going to be successful. So it all starts to snowball. It's very important that you just be very aware of all of these things. Let's talk about customer service. Customer service is the most important piece of any business, especially in this world where anybody and their grandma can review you. There is a Google business for everything. Even if there's not a Google business, somebody probably made a Google business tag of your business that you may not even know about. There's a Yelp listing. There's Facebook. There's an Instagram location. There's a LinkedIn. Someone may have just checked in or tagged or been somewhere nearby or made up a location for your business. There are so many things out there. One, you want to have ownership of all of those. If there's a Yelp account, you need to own it. If there's a Google business, you need to own it. It doesn't need to be looming out there with incorrect information. Customer service is the one thing you can control when you can't control anything else. If a client is unsatisfied or unhappy, or something has happened, an apology is not going to cost you money. A lawsuit will. Time will. Dealing with that conflict as it snowballs costs you money. Saying I'm sorry can be said in so many different ways. You don't even have to apologize for anything. You can say, I'm sorry that you feel that way. That doesn't mean you're actually sorry about anything. So I want you to know that that is the most important thing that you can do during a crisis and during a pandemic. Everybody's on edge. You're on edge. Your staff's on edge. The world is on edge. So the way that you can minimize that and minimize the conflict is to say, I'm so sorry that you've experienced that. I'm going to look right into it. Just doing that is going to prevent letters coming to your office, the possible call to an attorney, reviews. If you are telling them you're handling it, they're far less likely to negatively review you. Even if you never get back around to them, I do not advise that. I think that it is very important for you to make sure that you do wrap back around to anyone that you've given, your word that you're going to do something. But even if you never wrap back around to them, their percentage chance of doing something negative to your business is reduced tenfold if you just go ahead and say, I'm so sorry that that happened. I'm looking into it. I will get back with you. I'm addressing it, etc. You can say something like that. That's something that I just want to make sure that I drive home during this. I think that when you're thinking about how to preserve assets, the first thing that you want to do is preserve the clients that you already have and the brand that you already have. You've built up a reputation in a business for a reason. It's important to you. I'm sure it's your baby. So you want to make sure that someone's not able to come in and easily take that away just because you were busy, you were fighting fires, you didn't know what your schedule looked like, and you kind of missed it. That doesn't, it's too much. It's too much of a negative impact on your business to then have to go from backwards to forwards and dealing with it when you could have dealt with it to begin with. Pivot. The pivot is something that is very important, when you're in trying times or you're in different times. And it may be that, you have a business that sells hand sanitizer and you're like, this is the best time ever because I'm like, I can't even keep up with my sales. That creates its own level of an issue. But even if you're in that type of mentality, you have to pivot, even if you have more business than you had before. The pivot is a very essential and important place to be at in your mind, because when you begin the pivot process, you need to know what you're pivoting to and what you're pivoting from. The very important thought process involved with the pivot is twofold. What is it that's not working for me now that I need to address? And number two is, what is working for me brilliantly that I do not want to lose? So even in a pivot, you are going to maintain a system of something. So if you're pivoting and creating an entirely different new business, that's not a pivot, that's a new business. So the pivot has to maintain the things that you want to keep. What was working for your business before? If it was working, you don't need to fix it. If it was broken, you do need to fix it. So we need to make sure that the pivot doesn't also fix things that were working, because fixing working things can lead to broken things. So we want to make sure that we avoid that. So that kind of wraps up what it is that I want to kind of explain to you around efficiency settings and all of that. I'm going to give you some tips to take away. And so I have 4 for you of tips that I want you to be able to use to reanalyze. So number 1 is, what is your mission statement post 2020? Number 2 is, what is working right now and what is not? Number 3 is, what can you condense to make room for growth? Number 4 is, you must produce a P&L. So from your P&L, you're going to have an A and a B, and you're going to want that to be past and present, and then future. So we've got about 17 minutes. I was going to open this up for, if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the text box. I don't know if you guys can actually like speak on here, how this works. I've had so many different Zoom conferences. They're all a little bit different. But I am happy to do that. If no one has any questions, I'm going to go into another topic that I can talk for hours, so we can keep on going. But I do just want to give you guys an opportunity. I like to be interactive. So if you want to type any questions or do a raise hand, you can do that right now. And if not, we'll slide into the next thing. All right, let's talk about marketing. So marketing is something that is very difficult for a lot of people. It is something that I want you to know has many different avenues and assets. Um, there are a lot of ways that you can get trapped in marketing, and there are a lot of ways you can lose money in marketing. I have tried every type of marketing that there is: commercials, newspaper, magazines, social media, podcast, YouTube, literally, you name it, I've tried it. Every business has something different that relates to a different aspect of marketing. A marketing agency is something that you should not consider unless you have been profitable in your business for a solid year. That means that your P&L statement should be in the black for 12 straight months before you consider a marketing agency, just because of how expensive they are and because of how much of a delegation that is. If you are not profitable for a solid year, you don't need an agency because you need to be doing that yourself with your own time. And so that's my opinion. But from all the different businesses that I've had and time that I've had in this business, I just want you to be aware of that. The most directed marketing that you can have right now is to do Google marketing. That is going to get you directed clients. You're paying specifically to get someone to your website or to your phone number. You're not paying for what's called organic SEO. And so Google is going to be the way you transfer dollars into clients. So you need to think about, are you building a brand and are you putting money into brand building, or are you putting money into clients and the creation of clients? There are two folds of marketing. One is brand building, one is client generation. So where you're at in your business is going to depend on where you're at in your marketing. And your mission statement is going to be able to drive what type of marketing you need to be doing. And so taking that deep dive is going to be helpful. Also, making sure that marketing is appropriately accounted for on your P&L statement is incredibly important. Anytime someone asks you to sponsor an event, that's marketing. Anytime you put an ad in a paper, that's marketing. Anytime you support your T-ball league and put your name on the t-shirt, that's marketing. Anytime you buy a social media ad, that's marketing. Anytime you run a commercial, that's marketing. All of that needs to be very diligently and appropriately accounted for. Anytime you buy tickets or a table at an event and they put your little name on a card in the middle of the table, that's marketing. We want to make sure that you know how much money you're spending. The people in your community are going to ask you for money as a small business owner a lot. There are going to be lots of charities that people want you to support. I want to make sure you can support as many charities as possible, but you cannot do that at the expense of running into a loss scenario instead of profit. And so it's important for you to know exactly how much you're spending on marketing. And then you need to be able to trace your marketing. Now, some marketing is not very traceable. You know, if you have a commercial running, then you're not going to be able to directly know, did someone come to you because of that commercial? Google marketing is directly traceable. In your Google My Business that you set up with Google, you're going to be able to see exactly how many people saw your website, saw your landing page on Google Business, and how many people were transferred into clients. That is something that you can measure. Measuring marketing is going to help with your efficiency rating. Efficiency rating is what we said is at the essence of your success. So realize that the diligence that you have around your marketing is going to affect your efficiency rating. Because whenever you market, you want to make sure that the time that you're putting into it is bringing you back something. Now, one thing that you can do is hire bits and pieces of marketing from an agency without hiring them overall. So hiring someone to write a press release for you because your business just did something great, or you just received an award, very important. Just because you hire them to write you a press release does not mean that you need to now be in a contract for a monthly service that includes social media and commercials and radio and press release. Don't get confused. Also realize you are able to say no. Just because someone comes to you with a total package doesn't mean you have to accept all of it. You can say, this works for me, this doesn't. And look at what's going to be important for your business. I want to make sure that you know that you have the opportunity to say no, and also know that you have the opportunity to turn a no into a yes. All of those things are totally within your power. You have to believe that first. The way that you believe that and have confidence is that you have balance in your life based on your schedule. And the way that you have confidence is you know exactly what your mission statement is and exactly what your P&Ls look like. That's what helps give you the confidence to be able to make sound business decisions. So marketing is something that can be a rabbit hole. I just want you to know that it is incredibly beneficial. The way that I started my practice is that I put a ton of money into commercials to begin with. Those commercials built a brand for me that created a way for people to be able to believe in me whenever I started a brand new practice in a brand new area with a brand new concept of the law. So, what I did had never been in the area that I started it. And so I needed the commercials to be able to build a brand for me and to build brand awareness. I needed later for those to be able to transfer directly into clients. But initially, because I had a new concept and my mission statement was to change the way a culture of people thought, the way that I market that is much different than just turning one person into a client. The way that I market that is to change the mentality of a society. That happens through commercials. That's why commercials are so expensive. And so when you think about it, all the things that you see on TV in a commercial are big brands like mattress companies, car companies. Those people are making sure that they're in the background of your mind all the time. They're not necessarily like, I want you to come to my car lot today. Google AdWords is, you're looking for a Lexus SUV and I have a Lexus SUV and I want you to come buy it. It's a big difference. There's also a big difference in cost allocation because the Google is going to cost $15 for that person. You're going to be able to say, I paid $15. I got that client. I sold them a Lexus SUV. I made $4,000 off of the transaction. All day you're winning. But a commercial is going to build an overall brand. And so just know the difference and study that before you get into that scenario. There are going to be people that call you for marketing all the time. Just be very aware of that. Don't get on too many of those calls and waste your time. Do get on the calls if there's something specifically that you're looking for and you want to massage out that process. If you do that, get on the phone with them. You're always able to take in information and then use that information to make building blocks down the road. And so that's a big piece about marketing that I just want you to know. I'm not going to get into the analytics of social media and that type of thing. Obviously, this is a social media world. Your business may or may not belong in social media marketing. You may or may not have enough time to build a social media presence. You just want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing is totally consistent. So if you're sponsoring T-ball and putting your name on a placard on a table and doing a Google ad, all of those things need to look the same for the year. So it needs to be 3 to 4 images that you use over and over and over for the year. Those images do not need to have a lot of words on them. People can only absorb X amount of information. You know that from your own attention spans. So don't try to go overboard on the amount of information that you put on a tiny little square block. It's just going to get lost in translation. Make sure that you have current pictures. You want to have a current picture of your logo or a current picture of yourself or a current picture of your business that you use over and over and over. You don't need to have a brand new picture every time something's posted of you. You need to have the same picture for a calendar year. You need to pick 3 to 4 images that you use for a calendar year. Now, if you're a social media influencer, obviously every single day you need to come up with a new image, but that's not the same as being a small business owner. So just know the difference between that and don't get lost in it, because right now we live in a world where it's like an overwhelming amount of information. People are oversharing 24/7. You don't necessarily have to do that as a small business owner. When you think about small business and you think about calling up an HVAC company or a plumber, or you go to a store, you think about consistency. Consistency is how you keep your clients and it's how you keep your business rolling. Consistency is not an oversharing of information. If they know too much information, then it may lead them the other direction. So you want to make sure that the information that you are providing is incredibly consistent. You want to make sure that your brand is consistent. The way that you have consistency is to have an efficiency rating and to have confidence. The confidence comes from your efficiency rating and your schedule, and it creates consistency. It creates consistency in your tone on the phone. It creates consistency in the aura that you have and the presence that you have with your clients. That results in consistency of your brand, which results in an ability for society or the general public to trust. That is the essence of marketing, is to create trust. And so what they're trying to do through a lot of things that are fake is create trust. So please remember that when you're thinking about marketing, and boil back down to what is it that's trustable with your business and within yourself. And then use those concepts about your business or about yourself to market. All right. I think we're about wrapped up for the day. Really enjoyed it. I love taking this little deep dive for you guys and kind of going through things that they're all connected. They're part of a big web. The center of that web is your success, and it all kind of branches out, but they are connected to one another. Your staff, your accounting, the HR, marketing, all of that's connected to your own consistency and brand building of your business. And it seems to be incredibly overwhelming, but if you create a strategic plan and not even, don't let that word scare you, that doesn't have to be like a 26-page document. It can just be, what is my mission statement? How did I get here? Where am I trying to go? What do my P&Ls look like? You have to have the P&Ls. So I think we're good. We've got like 4 minutes. Catherine, thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate you all being here today.
No, thank you so much. And thank you for that little extra tidbit in the last few minutes about marketing. I know I learned a lot in this past hour, and so I'm so appreciative of your time. And I do want to mention for the people on today's call or watching the recording that Ashley-Nicole Russell is also going to be one of our key speakers in our Better Your Business Academy for this year. That program is available to any business. You do have to apply. And so it fits any business type, whether you're a new business, you've been in business for years, it doesn't matter. And so I'm going to put some details. I'll put the link directly to that application in the chat now, but you can also go directly to bbbevents.org to learn more about that event or that program and other events that we have coming up. But you definitely want to apply for that, because I know I can't wait to hear what you have to share for that. So with that, I'll give you guys 3 minutes back in your day. Here's some free time to be that buffer for you, like she talked about. But thank you again for your time and for everyone who took time out of their day to join us. And we hope to see you on another event soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye, guys.